The Bernie Sanders campaign has picked up a number of huge endorsements this week. Now, before I get to my story that I recorded previously about this, I have to add in at the last minute this other endorsement that just came out today. So this is why I'm kind of, dressed down a little bit. When I'm working on a Sunday, this is what happens. But so here's the endorsement from Pramila Jayapal. She tweets out here, "I'm all in for Bernie Sanders for president. Bernie has the bold passion, authenticity, and clarity that working people across this country desperately need. We are building the progressive movement that will bring justice and opportunity and transform our country. Join us." And this from the Washington Post. In a telephone interview with the Washington Post on Sunday, Jayapal said she decided to endorse Sanders because, quote, "he has a clarity on policy prescriptions that goes right to the heart of what working people need." She will unveil her endorsement Monday in Iowa. Jayapal also told the Post she will be named National Health Policy Chair for the Sanders campaign, as well as a Washington State Chair. So this is a huge pickup for Bernie Sanders. So right now there are two Medicare for All bills, one in the Senate, one in the House. The one in the House is Pramila Jayapal's bill. So it really only makes sense that she would eventually endorse him. But she has, before now, kind of been sitting back and basically endorsing both Sanders and Warren. But now clearly she has picked, I think, the winning side. So this is going to be, I'm not sure what kind of impact this will actually have on voters that are maybe, not with Sanders yet. But this does show you that the progressive side of the party, the progressives that, the few of them that actually exist in the Democratic Party, they are lining up behind Bernie Sanders because they trust him to be the one to fight for these issues and to actually win. Now let me get to the previously recorded piece on the Bernie Sanders endorsements of the week. So Bernie Sanders has been picking up a ton of endorsements. Last week on my live stream, I discussed how the Sunrise Movement recently endorsed Bernie Sanders. And this week, there was a whole new round of endorsements. And to be honest with you, I don't even think this is everything, but this is at least several of them. So let me show you first here, Danny DeVito, his endorsement of Bernie Sanders.
It means the world to me to be on Bernie's side because I know that's the right side of history. He's the guy to do it. He is the man to beat Trump. He is the man to change our whole system.
Hey, thanks so much.
He's been doing this for so long that it's like second nature to him.
I feel
He's going to take care of the country, and not only our country. He's got his eye on everybody else in the world, too. This system obviously doesn't work as it is, and we have to change it. We're going to fix ourselves, and then we're going to be an example, the shining example that we should be. The skies are becoming clear, and when the skies clear up, what's standing there is the person who is the one who's been there forever, saying the same thing, fighting for the people, and that is Bernie Sanders. This is one thing we have to understand. We can't expect Bernie to do this alone. We have to be in there with him every step of the way.
Awesome. What a great endorsement. Danny DeVito is the man. Such a great guy. Let me show you the... also, just to go off his last point there, he's 100% correct. Bernie Sanders, as he says himself over and over again, even if he becomes president, he's not going to get this stuff done without the movement behind him, which is, really, in some ways you could say in many ways, you could say he's the only honest guy running for president because he is aware that it takes a mass movement of people for real change to happen. Let me go to the next endorsement here that I want to share. Nevada's largest teachers union is endorsing Bernie Sanders. Let me scroll down and read the first couple paragraphs. Actually, zoom in here. So, Senator Bernie Sanders won the endorsement of an influential teachers union in Nevada on Tuesday morning, a key sign of support in the early voting state where unions have significant political power. Quote, "We appreciated that Senator Sanders came to us, very much reached out to us, and wanted to speak to us," Clark County Education Association President Vicky Courtney told BuzzFeed News on Monday night. Sanders was the clear leader in a recent straw poll of union members, she said, which was a major factor in the decision. The union represents 19,000 teachers and other educators in Las Vegas and is the largest teachers union in Nevada. The Clark County School District is the 5th largest school district in the country. Huge endorsement right here from an influential group in Nevada. The next endorsement. So this came at the end of last week, but I haven't discussed it yet. But I want to share this because I think this is also a great endorsement.
Hi, I'm Emily Ratajkowski, and I'm endorsing Bernie Sanders for president. I'm 28. I'm a millennial, a true millennial. You know, I think one of the things that's so interesting about young people supporting Bernie Sanders is that he's not like a young, sexy candidate. What he says speaks so much to what people want that sort of who he is, it's so much beyond just one man. Bernie is extremely genuine, he's consistent, he's powerful, not because of who he is as one person, but because of the way that he invigorates people and excites them and brings together this movement. So when Bernie sort of popped up on the radar as this guy who had been arrested in the 60s and who had been consistent in his policies, not only has he always advocated for healthcare, he's also always been on the right side as far as civil and humanitarian issues.
Who is going to be speaking out for people who need someone to speak out for them?
It just was like, this is our man. Women in this country have so much to lose as far as healthcare. This is a potential moment in the Supreme Court where Roe v. Wade could be overturned. So whoever's going to be our next Supreme Court justice will be up to the next president in the next 4 years. So it's very important to have someone who advocates for women's rights in position of power.
Too many women have fought for too many years to make sure that women control their bodies, not the government. We're not going back.
Bernie has always been very clear about how he advocates for women's health care, which is hugely important to me. I understand why sometimes it doesn't feel appealing to vote. And I think that's really important to talk about because a lot of people are like, how could people not vote? What's wrong with them? And I think it's, comes down to the fact that there aren't often candidates that represent the change that you want to see. They don't represent what you want for yourself. So it feels so distant and sort of unimportant. That's not the case in this election. There's so much at stake here. And getting out to vote, your one vote makes a change. We will regret it forever if we don't take this opportunity to join this movement.
So there you go. And I think this represents the diversity in the support for Bernie Sanders. It's important to have this kind of diversity in support, diversity in the issues that certain people care about, diversity in terms of where the actual support, where the endorsements are coming from, because this is a mass movement of people. So some people, maybe their one issue they care about is healthcare. So they support Bernie because Medicare for all. Maybe for someone else like Emily Ratajkowski, it's women's issues. So it's important to understand that, especially when discussing Bernie Sanders and your support of him with other people in your lives, because you want to be able to communicate that this isn't just about one or two things. This is about a mass movement of people that are all supporting each other. Even if, Bernie has mentioned at his rallies, even if you have great health care, are you going to fight for people that don't have health care? So that idea is what this movement is about. Even if you aren't suffering from whatever issue that someone else may be suffering from, you are willing to fight for them and they're willing to fight for you on your issue. So it's really about, solidarity around, basically around people and really caring for one another. Now, let me play this next endorsement, which is an important endorsement. This is Representative Mark Pocan of Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, Sanders won that state in the primary in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. Hillary went on to lose it to Donald Trump. So knowing that context, watch this video.
I don't know if you know it, but you won 71 of the 72 counties.
What happened to that 72nd?
You got 48%.
All right. I am very excited today to make a wonderful announcement for our campaign. Congressman Mark Pocan of Wisconsin is here to announce his support for our campaign, and we're just very, very proud. Mark is going to be the chair of our Wisconsin campaign, Mark, how are we going to do in Wisconsin in 2020?
You know, unfortunately, we were embarrassed. Donald Trump won Wisconsin by 23,000 votes. But our problem was we had a big drop-off in Democratic voters. About 250,000 Democrats that normally come out didn't come out. And the problem was they weren't mobilized and they weren't excited and invigorated. We share values, right? Those populist progressive values are so important, and more importantly, so do the American people. Poll after poll after poll, people support Medicare for all, they support the Green New Deal, they support us not getting involved in a bunch of military interventions around the world, and because of that, that's why you did so well, I think, in Wisconsin. You have always spoken truth to power. You know, your message on trade, alone. I grew up in Kenosha, Wisconsin. 14,000 people out of 70,000 made cars when I was growing up. No one does today. There's an Amazon distribution center that was advertising last time I was there up to $12.75 an hour. Your parents made that 3 decades ago, and that's what people are making now without the good family supporting benefits as well. People wanted change, and Donald Trump lied to them during the election, said he would bring them jobs, and he didn't do any of that. Your position around working families and making sure that you can lift wages and have good family supporting jobs.
Absolutely.
We're desperate for that in Wisconsin.
Look, together, you know what? We're going to beat Trump badly in Wisconsin.
You getting those voters back, the fact that the 3 out of 4 young voters came out and voted for you, having that turnout come back, Wisconsin will be in the blue column.
Well, let's go forward together.
Absolutely.
Another fantastic, important, great endorsement. I mean, this really shows you, like, look, support from other politicians, national politicians, generally isn't all that important. Even support like this, like it's unclear how much sway he's actually going to have. But what Mark Pocan is doing here is he is being what he is supposed to be, a representative of his people. So Wisconsin heavily favored Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, and then she lost the state to Donald Trump. So the only smart thing to do as somebody who is a representative in that state is to support the candidate that his state loves. So this is how you do it. So Mark Pocan doing or engaging in a important a video here and endorsement. Let me go to the last one, Dr. Cornel West. So we all know he supported Bernie Sanders already, but this is, I guess, his official endorsement video. And Cornel West here explains why Bernie beats Donald Trump.
You want double clap or just one? I get rhythmic up here. Bernie Sanders is the Democratic candidate who can actually beat a gangster in the White House named Donald Trump. You have to have enthusiasm, energy to counter the escalating neo-fascist energy and enthusiasm of a Donald Trump, with all the xenophobia, with all the talk about working people, but very much tied to big military, very much tied to big money. That's Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders has backbone. That's what it is to have integrity. You see, that's what it is to have courage and conviction and commitment and that consistency over time and space.
Oh, there he is. That's what I'm talking. He's the one I'm talking about. Bernie Sanders in the house. Bernie.
He's tied to a moral and political solidarity with poor and working people. That cuts so much deeper.
See, what I love about this brother is not that he's a god, not that he's a deity, he's a human being trying to be morally consistent and bear witness in such a way that he can bring us together and change this nation.
He's an unprecedented candidate in American history. It reminds me in some ways of what Brother Martin Luther King Jr. had to deal with in the 60s, when you have a certain commitment to fighting against racism, militarism, materialism, and poverty, fighting against wealth inequality, trying to ensure the ecological catastrophe is held at bay by the kind of new green policies and so forth, that you get targeted. So you get the kind of media blackouts or whiteouts, however you want to call it. They're fearful. They're fearful because Bernie Sanders, his political revolution, morally based, ethically based, is a fundamental challenge to their interests and their status. And let's be very clear, the Democratic Party right now lives in the age of Bernie Sanders. It's just a great joy to be with my dear brother Bernie Sanders, who is exemplar of the longevity of integrity, the longevity of consistency when it comes to poor and working people. My name is Brother Cornel West, and I have been a freedom fighter for the last 50 years, and I have a smile to be in solidarity with my dear brother Bernie Sanders.
So, can't get much better than that. Cornel West is one of my favorite people in politics. All right, so you see these endorsements, and look, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get your hopes up, because it's important to understand none of this happens unless you continue to be engaged in this process and support candidates or support Bernie Sanders in this race, and discuss your support of him, and door knock, phone bank, volunteer, donate. All that matters. Of course, make sure you're registered to vote. Get people in your lives that support Bernie registered to vote. Like, all that has to happen for any of this to happen. But seeing these sorts of endorsements, especially someone like Mark Pocan, like endorsements like this begin to line up behind Bernie Sanders now. He has some of this support that he didn't have at the beginning of 2016. So in 2016, he was kind of just beginning to almost fall in to the nomination, as opposed to now where he's had like this 3-year, 4-year buildup to this point, and all the pieces are falling into place. And this is just the beginning of it. And in 2 weeks, we're going to see with Iowa, then New Hampshire, and it's going to go on and on and on. We're going to see if the building of this movement over the past 3 years has really helped to put Bernie into a better position this time around than he was in 2016. So I have high hopes, but again, it's important. Stay engaged and make sure you get out there and vote.